Have you ever felt an invisible hand pull you back from the edge of disaster? That moment when something inside you screamed stop just seconds before catastrophe struck. Or perhaps you've experienced a series of near misses so improbable that calling them coincidence feels almost insulting to the universe itself. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology and spirituality, spent decades studying what he called the protective patterns within the collective unconscious. What he discovered wasn't folklore or wishful thinking. It was a systematic, observable phenomenon that certain individuals experience throughout their lives. These people, Jung noted, seemed to walk through existence surrounded by an invisible shield, guided by forces that operated just beyond the realm of ordinary perception. But here's what makes this truly fascinating. This protection isn't distributed randomly across humanity. It's not about being good, religious, or spiritually advanced. Jung discovered that divine protection follows specific principles, responds to particular energetic signatures, and reveals itself through unmistakable signs. And today, we're going to explore the 7 most powerful indicators that you're living under this cosmic guardianship. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Now, think back to the closest calls in your life, those moments when disaster loomed and somehow, inexplicably, you walked away unscathed. Has this ever happened to you more than once, more than twice? If you're nodding right now, recognizing a pattern you've never quite put into words, then what you're about to discover might completely reframe your understanding of your own life story. Jung's research revealed something extraordinary. Those who are protected by higher powers don't just survive, they're preserved for a purpose. Every intervention, every miraculous save, every door that mysteriously closed before you could walk through it into danger. None of it was random. These weren't lucky breaks or fortunate timing. They were calculated interventions by forces that have invested in your survival because you carry something essential. The question isn't whether divine protection exists. The evidence, both in Jung's extensive case studies and in the lived experiences of countless individuals, points to something far more profound than mere chance at work in our lives. The real question is, are you one of the protected ones? And more importantly, do you recognize the signs that have been appearing throughout your entire existence? Stay with me until the end of this video, because by the time we're finished, you'll understand why certain disasters kept missing you by inches, why your intuition has saved you countless times, and why the universe seems determined to keep you alive. What you're about to learn isn't just theory. It's a framework for understanding the invisible architecture of protection that may have been surrounding you since birth. The transformation in Carl Jung's understanding of divine protection didn't happen overnight. When he first began his groundbreaking analytical work, Jung approached spiritual matters with the skepticism of a trained scientist. Guardian angels, divine intervention, cosmic protection. These were stories for the spiritually naive fairy tales that provided comfort but held no real substance. Jung was interested in the measurable, the observable, the patterns that could be documented and studied. But then something shifted in his research. As he delved deeper into the collective unconscious, documenting case after case, session after session, Jung began noticing something he couldn't rationalize away. Certain individuals kept appearing in his notes with remarkably similar life patterns. These weren't people who knew each other or shared cultural backgrounds. They came from different countries, different social classes, different belief systems. Yet their stories contained an undeniable thread of synchronicity that defied conventional explanation. These souls seemed to move through existence with invisible bodyguards. Jung meticulously documented intervention after intervention in their lives, Accidents that should have happened but didn't. Meetings that got mysteriously cancelled mere hours before the other person revealed dangerous intentions. Sudden, overwhelming urges to leave specific locations moments before disaster struck those very places. The patterns were too consistent, too precise, too targeted to be dismissed as mere chance. What fascinated Jung most was the revelation that shattered his initial assumptions about who receives this protection. These weren't necessarily the saints among us. They weren't the most devout churchgoers or the morally pristine individuals who never made mistakes. In fact, many of them were deeply flawed human beings, struggling with their own demons, making questionable decisions, living lives that would hardly qualify as exemplary by conventional standards. If this resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. This is where we explore the deeper truths about consciousness and purpose, and I'd love to have you on this journey. So what made them different? Jung's research revealed a hidden truth that changed everything. These were souls carrying specific missions that required their survival. Not missions they necessarily understood or even acknowledged, but purposes encoded deep within their psyche that were essential for humanity's collective evolution. Their premature exit from this world would disrupt massive psychological and spiritual chains that extended far beyond their individual existence. The impact of this discovery was profound. Protection, Jung realized, wasn't a reward for good behavior, it was a functional necessity. The universe, or whatever intelligent force orchestrates these patterns, was making strategic decisions about who needed to survive certain moments because of what they carried within them. Some held keys to future discoveries. Others were destined to trigger transformative moments in other people's journeys. Some were here to break generational patterns that had plagued entire bloodlines for centuries. Now I want to go even deeper into understanding these 7 unmistakable signs that reveal you're under this divine protection. Because recognizing them in your own life isn't just about satisfying curiosity. It's about understanding your purpose and why you've been preserved through moments that should have ended differently. If any of this resonates with your own journey, write in the comments. I recognize the pattern. Jung's research, ultimately, categorized protected souls into 3 distinct archetypes, each serving a unique function in the grand tapestry of human evolution. The first group he called mission carriers, individuals who hold critical information, abilities, or energy patterns that humanity will need in its next phase of development. These people often don't even realize what they're carrying. They might feel ordinary, unremarkable even, yet within their consciousness lies a piece of the puzzle that future generations will desperately need. The universe keeps them alive, not because of who they are today, but because of what they'll deliver tomorrow. The second archetype Jung identified were the catalyst souls. These individuals exist to trigger massive transformations in other people's lives. Their presence at specific moments creates ripple effects that alter entire destinies. They might say one sentence that changes someone's mindset forever, make one decision that prevents a tragedy, or simply be in the right place at the right time to redirect someone's journey. The hidden truth here is that their protection isn't about their own story. It's about the hundreds of stories they'll impact by simply surviving to show up when needed. Then there are the archetypal healers, perhaps the most challenging role of all. These souls incarnate specifically to break ancient patterns that have plagued families, communities, even entire cultures for generations. They're here to end cycles of trauma, abuse, limitation, and dysfunction that have been passed down like toxic heirlooms. Their very existence threatens the status quo, which is why their protection must be particularly strong. The forces that benefit from keeping old patterns alive don't want these pattern breakers to succeed. Understanding these categories reveals something crucial about divine protection. It's never about favoritism. The universe isn't playing favorites or rewarding good behavior. This is pure necessity. When you recognize that you've been protected through impossible circumstances, what you're actually recognizing is that the universe has made a strategic investment in your survival. Too much depends on you completing your mission, whatever that mission might be, for random chance to interfere. Your continued existence is required for the greater collective unconscious to evolve, for certain transformations to occur, for specific revelations to come to light at precisely the right moments. This brings us to the first unmistakable sign that you're under this protection, and it's one that many people dismiss as mere luck or coincidence. Disasters that you should have been part of keep getting cancelled from your reality, not just once, but repeatedly throughout your life. Maybe you missed a flight that later crashed. Perhaps you left a building minutes before it collapsed. You might have ended a relationship just before the person revealed their truly dangerous nature. These aren't random near misses. They're calculated interventions. The plane that crashed without you, the building that fell after you walked away, the toxic person who exited your life just in time. Each represents a moment when the invisible architecture of your protection activated to keep you functional for your purpose. Think about your own timeline of close calls. How many times have you walked away from something thinking, that was too close, only to discover later just how catastrophic it would have been if you'd stayed? The pattern isn't about luck, it's about preservation. If you're starting to see this pattern in your own life, write in the comments, I've been protected. What separates genuine divine protection from simple good fortune is the pattern. Once might be coincidence, twice could be luck. But when you start counting 3, 4, 5 or more instances where disaster veered away from you at the last possible moment, you're looking at something far more intentional. Jung documented a particularly striking case of a woman who came to him suffering from what she called survivor's guilt. Her story was almost unbelievable in its consistency. This woman had missed 5 separate catastrophic events through what appeared to be pure chance. A train wreck where she'd switched her ticket at the last minute because of an inexplicable feeling of unease. A theatre fire where she'd left early with a sudden headache, only to watch the building go up in flames an hour later from her. Apartment window. A ship that sank on a voyage she'd been booked on, but cancelled because her intuition screamed at her not to board. A building collapse in her workplace that happened on the one day she'd called in sick, despite feeling physically fine. And perhaps most eerily, she'd left her town just before a pandemic swept through, killing hundreds because she'd had an overwhelming urge to visit a distant relative she barely knew. She came to Jung convinced she was cursed, that death itself was somehow stalking her, toying with her. The guilt of surviving when so many others perished was destroying her mental health. But Jung's analysis revealed a completely different narrative. She wasn't being stalked by death. She was being navigated around it with surgical precision. Through deep analytical work, Jung discovered something extraordinary within her psyche. She carried the template for a revolutionary healing technique that wouldn't fully emerge into her conscious awareness for another 2 decades. Every disaster she'd avoided, every near miss that had haunted her dreams, was the universe delivering the same message. Not yet. She hasn't delivered what she's carrying. True to Jung's revelation, this woman went on to develop a groundbreaking therapeutic approach in her later years that helped thousands heal from trauma. But she needed those extra decades, those experiences, that specific journey to develop the wisdom and methodology that would make her technique so effective. The protection wasn't random mercy, it was strategic preservation. This understanding leads us directly into the second sign, and this one operates on a level that most people have been taught to ignore or medicate away. Your body knows things your conscious mind hasn't processed yet. It speaks in a language of sensation, discomfort, and physical response that bypasses rational thought entirely. When you're about to meet someone who carries dangerous energy, your stomach might suddenly turn. Before entering a situation that threatens your mission, unexplained anxiety floods your system. Sometimes your legs literally refuse to move toward a threat, as if an invisible force has rooted you to the spot. This isn't anxiety disorder, and it's not your imagination running wild. Jung recognized this as what he called the body's somatic intelligence, a protection system that operates through physical sensation because it knows your rational mind will try to override the warning. Your mind will say, "Don't be silly, this person seems nice," or "You're just being paranoid about this opportunity." But your body screams danger because it's connected to information streams your conscious awareness can't access. This is your protection speaking through flesh and nervous system, creating unmistakable signals that something threatens the mission you're here to complete. The transformation happens when you start trusting these physical warnings instead of dismissing them as irrational. Fears, every inexplicable bout of nausea, every sudden wave of dread, every time your body physically resists a decision your mind thinks makes perfect sense, these are your protection protocols activating. If your body has saved you from danger you couldn't see coming. Write in the comments, "My body knows." Jung spent years studying this phenomenon of enhanced somatic radar, documenting case after case where individuals reported physical sensations that preceded danger their rational minds had no way of detecting. One businessman, Jung, worked with experienced what he thought were debilitating anxiety attacks, but only in specific circumstances. Certain buildings would trigger sudden nausea. Particular business deals would cause his chest to tighten. Specific people would make his hands shake uncontrollably. Medical tests showed nothing wrong, yet the physical responses were undeniable. What Jung discovered through deep analysis transformed this man's entire understanding of his body's responses. These weren't anxiety attacks, they were precision warnings. The deal that made him physically ill turned out to involve fraud that would have destroyed his reputation. The building he couldn't enter without feeling sick housed energy patterns that would have derailed his spiritual development. The people who triggered his physical responses all had hidden agendas that would have caused him massive harm. His body wasn't malfunctioning, it was functioning at a level of perception his conscious mind couldn't access, reading energy signatures and probability fields that indicated threat to his mission. This somatic intelligence operates like a highly sophisticated detection system, scanning environments, people, and situations for anything that carries harmful frequencies. Your body becomes the instrument through which your protection communicates, creating unmistakable physical sensations that bypass your rational mind's tendency to ignore warnings in favor of social conditioning or logical analysis. If this video gave you clarity about your own life, hit that like button. It helps this message reach others who need to understand their protection patterns. But the third sign takes protection from passive defense to active response, and this is where things get genuinely eerie. When someone genuinely attempts to harm you, and I mean truly harm you, not just disagree with you or compete fairly, something extraordinary happens. They experience immediate consequences. Not because you retaliate, not because you curse them or seek revenge, but because the universe itself responds. Their carefully laid plans inexplicably backfire. Their attacks somehow reverse direction. The very weapons they crafted to destroy you turn against them with startling precision. Jung documented this pattern so consistently across his protected patients that he developed a specific term for it: the mirror shield effect. He observed that those who attack protected souls are actually attacking themselves. The energy they send outward with harmful intent doesn't just dissipate. It reflects back to its source with amplified force. A teacher Jung counseled experienced this repeatedly throughout her career. Colleagues who tried to sabotage her work found their own careers mysteriously derailed. Administrators who attempted to discredit her ended up losing their positions. People who spread malicious lies about her got caught in larger scandals of their own making. The hidden truth Jung uncovered was that when your soul carries a mission important enough to warrant divine protection, the universe won't allow petty human jealousy, spite, or malice to interfere. The protection isn't passive or defensive. It's actively intelligent, recognizing threats and neutralizing them not through your conscious effort, but through a kind of cosmic justice that operates beyond human intervention. This isn't about you being vindictive or even aware of what's happening. It's about the universe protecting its investment in your mission with the same fierce determination a mother protects her child. The impact of recognizing this pattern is profound. It means you don't have to waste energy fighting your battles or defending yourself against attacks. Your role is to stay focused on your purpose while your protection handles the interference. If you've witnessed your enemies defeating themselves without your involvement, write in the comments, "The mirror is real." Danny. Fourth sign operates in the realm of resources, and it's one that confuses many people because it doesn't manifest as abundance in the traditional sense. This isn't about winning the lottery or suddenly becoming wealthy. It's far more precise and purposeful than that. When you need money for something directly aligned with your mission, not your wants, not your ego desires, but your actual purpose, the exact amount appears at the exact moment through seemingly random channels. Jung worked with an artist who lived perpetually on the edge of poverty. She could barely afford basic necessities, struggled to pay rent, lived a life that by all conventional measures looked financially desperate. Yet whenever she needed supplies for her spiritual paintings, canvas, specific pigments, tools for her work, money would materialize. An unexpected refund would arrive the day before she needed to buy materials. A forgotten account would surface with just enough for the supplies she required. Commission. Requests would come through with perfect timing to fund her next piece. What fascinated Jung about this case was the precision involved. The money never came for luxuries or comfort. It arrived exclusively to fund the work itself. Through deep analysis, Jung discovered why. Her paintings weren't simply art in the conventional sense. They carried specific healing frequencies, calibrated to activate particular aspects of the psyche in those who viewed them. Each piece was essentially psychological, medicine disguised as creative expression. The universe funded this work not as a favor, but as an investment, ensuring that these healing instruments would continue to be created and distributed to those who needed them. This resource provision protocol reveals a profound truth about divine protection. Your mission will be funded, but your comfort isn't guaranteed. The forces protecting you aren't concerned with making your life easy. They're concerned with making your work possible. The distinction is crucial for understanding how this sign operates in your own life, but perhaps even more mysterious than money appearing is the fifth sign, which seems to defy the basic laws of cause and effect. Your significant mistakes, the ones that should derail everything, that should cause catastrophic consequences, somehow get corrected without your intervention. That wrong turn you made while driving that somehow led you to exactly where you needed to be. The relationship that failed, spectacularly, but positioned you perfectly to meet your actual soulmate months later. The career decision that seemed disastrous at the time, but pivoted you directly into your true calling. Jung observed this pattern across countless cases, documenting instances where what appeared to be devastating errors in judgment transformed into precise course corrections. A surgeon Jung counseled made what he considered fatal mistakes during procedures, yet somehow the patients not only survived but recovered better than expected. The surgeon was plagued with guilt until Jung's analysis revealed something extraordinary. These weren't mistakes in the traditional sense. They were moments when the collective unconscious was channeling innovative techniques through him that wouldn't be formally understood for years. His errors were actually medical breakthroughs happening ahead of their time, corrections to outdated procedures that his conscious training hadn't yet recognized as necessary. The hidden mechanism behind this sign is that when you're on a protected path, even your mistakes serve your mission. The universe uses your errors as redirection tools, transforming what should be setbacks into strategic pivots that align you more precisely with your purpose. If you've seen your biggest mistakes turn into your greatest blessings, write in the comments, "My errors were redirections." The surgeon Jung worked with carried deep shame about what he perceived as professional incompetence. 3 times he deviated from standard surgical procedures, making decisions that contradicted everything in his medical training. Each time he'd been certain he'd killed the patient. Yet each time, against all medical probability, the patient not only survived, but recovered with outcomes superior to what conventional procedures would have achieved. The psychological toll was devastating. He felt like a fraud, convinced his license should be revoked. Jung's revelation during their sessions completely reframed the surgeon's understanding of what was happening. These weren't mistakes born of incompetence or negligence. The surgeon was being used as a conduit for experimental techniques channeled through the collective unconscious. His hands were performing procedures that formal medicine wouldn't validate for another 2 decades. The corrections he witnessed weren't mysterious saves. They were proof that the innovations worked. He was pioneering surgical approaches ahead of their time. His apparent errors actually breakthrough moments that future generations of surgeons would study and replicate. This understanding represents a complete transformation in how we view mistakes within a protected life. When you're serving a larger mission, even your fumbles become part of the innovation process. The universe uses your willingness to act, even imperfectly, as an opportunity to introduce new methodologies, fresh approaches, revolutionary thinking that couldn't emerge through conventional channels alone. But the 6th sign operates in a completely different dimension, the relational sphere, and it's one that often leaves protected individuals feeling confused or even guilty. Harmful people simply cannot maintain presence in your reality, not because you push them away, not because you create drama or confrontation, but because something fundamental in the energetic architecture of your life repels them. They get transferred to different departments. They suddenly move to another city. They lose interest in you for reasons they can't articulate. Sometimes they literally seem to forget you exist, as if you've become invisible to them. Jung observed this pattern so consistently among protected souls that he developed a specific framework to explain it. Frequency protection. Your soul, he discovered, vibrates at a particular rate when you're aligned with your mission. This frequency becomes literally uncomfortable, even painful for individuals whose presence would derail your purpose. It's not a conscious choice on their part. They don't wake up one morning and decide to leave your life. They have to leave because being in proximity to your energy field creates an inexplicable discomfort that eventually becomes unbearable. Think of it like a dog whistle that only certain people can hear. Your protective frequency emits a signal that predators, manipulators, energy vampires, and mission saboteurs unconsciously detect. Their nervous systems register it as threat or discomfort. They might rationalize their departure with logical explanations, a job opportunity elsewhere, changing interests, feeling like you're not a good fit. But the real driver is energetic incompatibility. Your field actively repels what doesn't serve your highest purpose. Jung documented a woman who experienced this repeatedly throughout her life. Every toxic boss got promoted away within months. Manipulative friends suddenly moved across the country. An abusive partner inexplicably lost all romantic interest. She'd felt like something was wrong with her until Jung helped her understand this was frequency protection in action, clearing her path of obstacles so she could eventually do her mission work, counseling abuse survivors with the purity and clarity that role required. If toxic people keep removing themselves from your life without your effort, write in the comments, "My frequency protects me." The seventh sign is perhaps the most profound and undeniable of all, those moments when impossible knowledge arrives exactly when you need it most. You're facing a critical decision with no time to research or deliberate, yet suddenly you just know which road to take. You meet someone for the first time and inexplicably understand whether to trust them or run. You're at a crossroads in your journey with multiple paths ahead, and clarity downloads into your consciousness like a file being transferred directly into your awareness. Jung encountered this phenomenon repeatedly in his most fascinating cases. A pilot came to him after his fifth impossible save, each incident involving split-second decisions that defied his training. In moments of extreme crisis, he would suddenly execute maneuvers he'd never learned, make choices that violated every protocol, yet somehow these unorthodox decisions saved everyone on board. Aviation experts who studied his emergency responses couldn't explain how he knew to do what he did. The knowledge simply shouldn't have been accessible to him. Jung's explanation revolutionized the pilot's understanding of these experiences. In critical moments, his consciousness wasn't operating alone. It was merging with what Jung termed the protective collective, a reservoir of archetypal wisdom accumulated across millennia of human experience. Every pilot who'd ever mastered their craft, every navigator who'd ever faced impossible odds, every decision-maker who'd ever chosen correctly under pressure, their accumulated knowledge became temporarily accessible through the collective unconscious. The pilot wasn't flying solo during emergencies. He was channeling the expertise of thousands of souls who'd come before him. This is the mechanism behind those impossible moments of knowing. Your individual consciousness temporarily expands to access collective wisdom that your personal experience couldn't possibly contain. You become a conduit for information that exists in the deeper strata of human knowledge, receiving exactly what you need precisely when you need it. The download is instantaneous, the clarity absolute, the confidence unshakable, because you're not relying on your limited personal database anymore. You're accessing the entire library of human experience relevant to that specific moment. But here's where Jung's work takes a crucial turn toward responsibility. Every person he counseled who exhibited these signs eventually had to confront an uncomfortable truth. Protection isn't charity, it's investment. If you're being protected through impossible circumstances, preserved through disasters, guided by knowledge you shouldn't possess, it's because the universe has made a calculated decision that your survival serves collective evolution. The protection protocols aren't free, they come with profound obligation. Jung was adamant about this point in his later writings. Divine protection exists to ensure you complete your mission, whatever that mission might be. The UA, investment made in keeping you alive, functional and on path, demands a return. That return comes through your service, your growth, your willingness to contribute to the collective transformation that your unique purpose serves. You're not being saved for your own benefit. You're being preserved because what you carry, the knowledge, the healing, the catalyst energy, the pattern-breaking capacity, is too valuable to lose to random circumstance. The impact of truly understanding this shifts everything. Protection stops being something you passively receive and becomes something you actively honor through purposeful living. Every protected day becomes a day with work to do, a calling to answer, a responsibility to fulfill. If you understand that your protection demands purposeful action, write in the comments, "I accept the responsibility." Understanding the deeper implications of recognizing these signs in your own life requires a fundamental shift in how you perceive your existence. You're not lucky, you're needed. The distinction is critical because luck implies randomness, chance, fortunate accidents of fate. What you've experienced isn't chance, it's strategic preservation. You're not special in the sense of being better than others or more deserving. You're assigned. You carry a specific function within the larger tapestry of collective human evolution, and your survival ensures that function can be fulfilled. You're not favored by the universe in the way a parent favors one child over another. You're functional, kept operational, because what you're here to do requires your continued existence. Every close call you've survived was calculated with precision. Every mysterious save was scheduled according to probability patterns you can't consciously perceive. Every intervention was intentional, activated by forces that understand your role in ways your waking mind doesn't yet grasp. Jung discovered through decades of analytical work that recognizing these patterns brings both liberation and weight. Liberation because you finally understand that your survival through impossible circumstances wasn't random or meaningless. Weight because with that understanding comes the inescapable knowledge of responsibility. But here's the revelation that changes how you approach each day. The protection isn't permanent. It lasts exactly as long as your mission requires. Not 1 second more, not 1 second less. When your purpose reaches completion, when you've delivered what you came to deliver, when the work encoded in your soul has been accomplished, the protection protocols deactivate. This truth unsettles some people when they first encounter it, but Jung insisted it's not something to fear. It's sacred. It means every single protected day you experience is a day with work to do. Every morning you wake up having survived another night is the universe confirming that your mission isn't finished yet. Your continued presence here is itself evidence that you still carry something the world needs. The transformation in perspective this brings is profound. You stop taking your existence for granted and start recognizing it as an active assignment. The disasters you walked away from, the toxic people who mysteriously exited your life, the resources that appeared exactly when your mission needed them, the impossible knowledge that downloaded in critical moments. None of it was about making you comfortable or ensuring you'd have an easy journey. It was all about keeping you functional long enough to complete what you're here for. Jung's ultimate discovery about divine protection, the insight that crowned his entire body of work on this subject, wasn't simply that protection exists, or even how it operates. His greatest revelation was why it exists with such precision and intelligence. You're not protected because you're perfect, morally superior, or spiritually advanced. You're protected because you're necessary. Every intervention in your life, every time the universe stepped in to redirect disaster, was essentially the same message being delivered. Not yet. They haven't delivered what they're carrying. The universe is waiting for you to fulfill your function, and now that you understand these signs, now that you recognize the pattern of protection throughout your life, you also understand why you're still here. The delivery hasn't happened yet. The work isn't complete. The purpose encoded in your existence is still unfolding. If you're ready to step into that purpose with full awareness, write in the comments, "I'm ready to deliver." If you've made it this far, I want you to know something. The fact that you're still here isn't coincidence either. The people who need to hear this message find their way to it, and something in you recognize the truth in these words. That recognition matters. If this resonated with you on a level that goes beyond intellectual understanding, if you felt something shift as you recognize these patterns in your own life, I'd love for you to join this community by hitting that subscribe button. The work we do here goes deep into the hidden mechanics of consciousness, protection, and purpose. Each video is designed to help you understand the invisible architecture of your life, and having you as part of this journey means we're building something meaningful together. Leave a comment below and simply write, "This message found me." I read every single one, and there's something powerful about acknowledging these revelations publicly. It strengthens the field for everyone who's walking this protected path. And if this video gave you clarity about your own life, about those close calls you've survived, about why you're still here, hit that like button. It helps this message reach others who need to understand their own protection patterns. Before you go, there's another video right here that takes this deeper into understanding what your specific mission might be and how to recognize it. Click and continue with me over there, because now that you know you're protected, the next question is, protected for what? Let's explore that together.